Does this Red Sox roster decision make sense? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. For those of you who may not know, last night was the deadline to add Rule 5 eligible players to your 40-man roster, meaning that the Red Sox had some really interesting decisions to make that could affect the 2024 Red Sox, and make them they did. 2 out of the 3 of their decisions last night really didn't catch anyone by surprise. It was something most fans and analysts were expecting to see happen, but the third decision the Red Sox made surprised a lot of people. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to break down the moves the Red Sox made last night, talk about the decisions that were made, why some of them were no-brainers, why some of them were surprising, what surprising means, why the Red Sox may have made this surprising move, and we're going to be talking about how all of this could impact the 2024 Red Sox and beyond. But before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. So for those of you who are sitting there right now, before we get into the actual moves themselves, who have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, once a prospect has hit a certain amount of criteria and is not on the 40-man roster, they are added into a league-wide draft that allows another team to possibly add this player to their 40-man roster, right? For the Red Sox, what this meant was that they had a whole list of players who are now eligible for this Rule 5 draft. This year, they had a really big amount. If you take a look at this list, there are about 30-40 names on here that will end up in the Rule 5 draft. Now, they could be drafted and they could come back to the Red Sox, and a lot of these guys aren't entirely worth giving up a roster spot for. But for the Red Sox specifically, they had 3 spots available last night to add at minimum 3 players to their 40-man roster without having to DFA anyone. What this means, this deadline is there so that teams can protect specific players on their roster. And for the Red Sox, again, they had 3 essentially free spaces to save people from this draft. Again, 2 of these decisions were absolute no-brainers because the first person saved by the Boston Red Sox was their top pitching prospect, Luis Perez. Luis is coming off a pretty decent year in 2023, where he had a really great statistical season in low A baseball to start the year, finishing there with a 3.21 ERA, a 3.16 FIP, in 13 games with a really impressive 11.98 K per 9. He then moved up to high A baseball by the end of the year. He did struggle a bit at the high A level, tossing a 4.95 ERA in 8 starts with a 6.07 FIP. But despite struggling at the high A level this year, most scouts believe that the ceiling for Luis Perez is really high. We're talking about a top mid-rotation type arm at his ceiling. And this is a guy who a lot of scouts also believe has a plus fastball, meaning that it could be a really effective fastball at the major league level. Luis Perez is by far and away the highest ceiling pitching prospect the Boston Red Sox have, and if they had not protected him, he would have been scooped up almost immediately in this Rule 5 draft. So it makes a ton of sense why the Boston Red Sox decided to hold on to Luis Perez and add him to the 40-man roster in hopes that he makes a large enough stride in 2024 to possibly even affect the big league club. Now, the other decision the Boston Red Sox made was very similar, because the second highest ranked pitching prospect in the Red Sox farm system is Wikelman Gonzalez. Gonzalez is ranked right below Luis Perez on the Red Sox top prospect list, according to SoxProspects.com. And Gonzalez kind of dominated this year in every level he was in. Yes, his ERA in high A to begin the year was a bit high at 5.14, but he had a much lower FIP at 3.53, meaning that he pitched a lot better than his ERA led on in 2023 to begin the year. And the Red Sox completely agreed, partially because he had a 15 K per 9 in high A, and partially because of that FIP and his performance strictly by himself on the mound. Gonzalez was promoted to AA Portland, where he absolutely dominated. He threw a 2.42 ERA in 10 games with the Portland Sea Dogs to finish out the 2023 season, and had a very similar 3.07 FIP with a still pretty impressive 11.73 K per nine. Gonzalez has a really great curveball, and if it wasn't for Yordany Monegro, he would probably have the best curveball in the Red Sox farm system. Gonzalez is another guy who's got that sort of mid-rotation type ceiling that could be a big piece for the Boston Red Sox over the next couple of years. If he had been left unprotected in the Rule 5 draft, this is a guy who would probably pretty immediately be picked up by another team, and these are probably your two best pitching prospects in the Red Sox farm system. It makes 100% sense that the Red Sox decided to try and save these guys from being picked up in the Rule 5 draft. On top of that, now that they are on the 40-man roster, they could potentially impact the big league club in 2024. Now, Perales is still a pretty long ways away. I would say at least another year. He's only in high A, and he struggled a bit in high A last season. He'll probably start the year in high A and see if he can make those adjustments to high A hitting. As for Wickelman Gonzalez, he's a guy who actually could really truly impact the Red Sox in 2024, possibly as a late season call up for the bullpen, or maybe if someone gets injured in the rotation later in the year. Wickelman Gonzalez is a guy that could be next man up, considering the fact that he's in Double-A right now, had a great Double-A season. He'll probably pretty quickly make his way to Triple-A in 2024. But again, those were not the surprising moves. Those were the moves everyone expected them to make. The third thing that the Red Sox did, and the reason we're calling this video a surprising moves, is because they decided not to choose anyone else for that third and open spot on their 40-man roster, which is leaving a lot of people asking the same question: why? When you're looking at the list of players that I showed you guys earlier in this video, it's pretty long, right? There had to have been someone on this list that the Red Sox felt as though was worthy enough of this final roster spot. There were a couple of intriguing options like Matthew Lugo, AJ Politi, Grant Gamble, and Zach Penrod, but most people agree that the surprising part of all of this is that the Red Sox did not add their top 15 pitching prospect, Shane Rohan, to their 40-man roster, leaving him Rule 5 eligible and possibly losing him in the Rule 5 draft. So why did the Red Sox decide not to add Shane Rohan to this list? Well, there are a couple possible reasons. The first is that the Red Sox are extremely confident that Shane Rohan will be passed up in the Rule 5 draft, and that could have something to do with what they saw from him in Triple-A Worcester this season, because once he got up to Triple-A, he really started to struggle. He finished Triple-A this year with 21 games under his belt and a 6.47 ERA with a not better but almost worse 6.55 FIP, right? He was performing a little bit worse on the mound than his ERA even shows. He struggled with command issues. He struggled with contact issues. He wasn't getting that swing and miss that we saw in Double-A this season before he got called up. Maybe the Red Sox feel as though his performance this year was comfortable enough for them to say, look, we'll take our chances. If he gets picked, that sucks, but we believe he won't get picked and we'll be able to retain him. That's scenario number one. Another scenario here is that the Red Sox did not feel as though Shane Rohan was going to be able to make an impact on the 40-man roster in 2024. What I mean by this is that if the Red Sox had added him to their 40-man roster and then at some point needed to remove him, he has to go through waivers. And waivers is much smaller pool size than the Rule 5 draft, meaning that Shane Rohan could possibly get lost in a sea of talent in the Rule 5 draft, but when he goes through waivers, every single team has the opportunity to pick up his contract, and there's a lot less people who are going to be on waivers with him. Maybe they believe that, hey, he's not going to be able to make an impact on the 40-man, and if we do add him, we're just going to have to remove him and take an even bigger chance that someone picks him up on the waivers, as opposed to, hey, let's take the chance now. It's a bit of a smaller chance, but we're going to see if he gets picked up in the Rule 5. If he doesn't, then we got him for the entire 2024 season, and we don't entirely have to worry about losing him anymore because you don't have to send him through that waiver wire. Those are sort of my two options here when it comes to why the Red Sox decided not to pick up Shane Rohan and add him to this 40-man roster. I still think it's a bit of an interesting decision, right? Because if you're willing to take that chance that he gets picked up by another team in the Rule 5 draft, why not just put him onto the 40-man, see if you can get anything out of of him and then take a little bit of a bigger chance that no one picks him up on the waiver wire, right? It just feels to me like a bit of a no-brainer to utilize this spot to save someone who could possibly have a bit of a bigger turnaround in 2024. And that's, to me, why a lot of people were surprised by this decision. Yes, he struggled. Yes, there are some concerns with Shane Drohan as to what his ceiling could truly be. But again, it was essentially 3/4 of one season at AAA. He's getting a bit older. This could be a year where you see him utilize some of the stuff Craig Breslow is trying to implement and really kind of transforms his game. It just, to me, doesn't make a ton of sense why you wouldn't at least take a chance on someone for this 40-man roster spot, right? You've got different types of relievers on that list. You've got utility guys on that list. You're telling me there's no one you were willing to take a chance on this 40-man roster? To me, it just feels like a little bit of a waste of space. I don't know though. I could definitely see both sides of this problem, right? Where one side's like, okay, we don't want to waste this roster spot and just sort of pull someone through the ringer just to say that we have a full roster. And the other side, it's like, well, yeah, but that's why the 40-man roster is there. It's to protect these guys that you think you can take a shot on, right? There's two sides of this equation. And I think ultimately this could end up being a good thing for the Red Sox. And what I mean by that is that this could be signaling that the Red Sox are being more decisive about who they add to the 40-man. They're not just adding people to add people. They're adding people for a specific purpose. And to me, that could be a really, really exciting part of the Craig Breslow era, being more decisive with your prospects, because what that means is making decisions about trades, making decisions about 40-man, making a lot of different decisions about guys who are actually going to impact the Boston Red Sox. So I kind of like the fact that the Red Sox are being decisive with these top prospects, right? Hey, you may be a top 15 pitching prospect, but if we don't think you have the stuff to genuinely impact this 40-man roster, we're going to take our chances that you can make it through a Rule 5 draft. I think that's kind of a good direction for the Boston Red Sox to go. Plus, hey, leaving an open roster space, maybe it means that a big move is coming and they just needed the space to get him onto the 40-man roster. I don't know. Either way, I think it surprised a lot of people that Shane Drohan was not added. So what's your opinion? Are you surprised that the Red Sox did not add one of their top 15 prospects to their 40-man roster and protect them from the Rule 5 draft? Are you not surprised? Do you think it was the right move, the wrong move? What are your thoughts on the Red Sox not utilizing their third roster spot for a Rule 5 eligible player? In the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.